The scent of bergamot still lingered in the room, her perfume. That's what struck me first. Not the silence, not the suitcase half-zipped by the door, not even the way his body flinched when I entered. It was the smell. Familiar, but not mine. I stood there, frozen in the doorway of our bedroom, the rain tapping softly against the window like a second heartbeat, out of sync, frantic. My fingers were still damp from the storm outside, the umbrella useless in my trembling hands. The house was too quiet, unnaturally still, like it was holding its breath with me. He turned. His shirt was half-buttoned, the one I gave him on our anniversary. His hair was damp at the edges, but not from the rain. It was the kind of damp that comes from shared heat, from whispers tangled in sheets that weren't meant for three. And then I saw it. Her scarf, floral, pale blue, crumpled near the edge of our bed. Her bed. I didn't say a word. My throat was locked. A dull, raw ache bloomed in my chest like something had torn open inside me. I heard him say my name. Once. Quietly. Like a warning. Like an apology already too late to matter. She emerged from the bathroom. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Mascara smudged under one eye. A flush creeping across her cheeks. She looked more like a ghost than a woman. Except ghosts don't usually wear silk robes. My knees buckled, but I didn't fall. I couldn't give them that. Instead, I laughed. A sharp, broken sound that didn't belong to me. It echoed through the room like glass shattering. "You helped her," I whispered, my voice trembling. "You helped her escape. Just so she could take my place?" Neither of them answered. My brain scrambled to make sense of it. This was her. The woman I helped. The one I held when she cried about him. About the bruises. About the nights he didn't come home. I offered her safety. I offered her shelter. I opened my heart so she could heal. And she slept with the man who was breaking mine. My breath turned shallow, like I was drowning in a flood that no one else could see. Every memory, every late-night conversation, every moment I defended him, every time I said he'd never do that, they all collapsed in on me at once. "I trusted you," I said to her. "I loved you," I said to him. And neither of them said a word. I wanted to scream, to rip the room apart with my hands, to crawl out of my own skin just to escape the pain clawing its way through me. But all I did was stand there. Hello. A woman turned to stone in the middle of a battlefield she didn't know she was fighting. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was spiritual. It was sacred. And they defiled it together. I left the house without another word, the storm swallowing me whole. The wind howled in my ears like a grieving mother. The streetlights blurred through the tears I didn't remember choosing to cry. And somewhere beneath the chaos of it all, a single question kept echoing in my chest like a drumbeat I couldn't silence. How do you rebuild a heart when it was shattered by the very hands that promised to protect it? Before the scarf on my bed, before the silence in his eyes, before the betrayal that burned through my ribs like wildfire, there was us. There was love, or something like it. He used to trace my spine with his fingertips on Sunday mornings, the smell of coffee curling through the hallway, jazz humming from the kitchen. We built routines like they were sacred. His toothbrush next to mine, mismatched mugs, quiet laughter under blankets during late-night documentaries. It was ordinary. And it was ours. I remember how he looked at me when I told him I wanted to start volunteering. "That's who you are," he said, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "You heal people." I believed him. Not just the words, but the weight of them. I wanted to believe I was something good in his world. A light, maybe. Constant. That's how I met her. Her name was Elisa. She came into the shelter one night soaked with rain and bruises she didn't name. I made her tea, gave her a blanket, and when her voice finally returned, I gave her something more. My time. My trust. A space safe enough for her to collapse in. She reminded me of someone I used to be. Someone lost. Someone desperate to feel seen again. So I brought her closer. Not just into the program, but into my home. Into our life. She had nowhere to go, and I had room. A guest room, a heart too full, and a husband who believed in what I did. He welcomed her with the same warmth he gave everyone. That's who he was. Charming, magnetic, disarming in all the ways that make you forget to question. We were a team. We laughed about how she burned toast, how she talked back to the news anchors, how she insisted the cat preferred her lap. She'd linger in the kitchen with him while I showered. Sometimes I'd come back to the smell of cinnamon and their shared laughter. I didn't see the danger. Not because it wasn't there, but because I didn't want it to be. There were little things. Nothing big enough to name but sharp enough to feel. A shift in his gaze when she spoke. The way he stood closer than necessary. The smiles that lasted a beat too long. But I told myself I was imagining it. Jealousy is an ugly feeling and I didn't want to wear it. He was mine. We had history, memories etched like carvings into our days. You don't throw that away over a few strange glances. Right. Still, I started making excuses for why I suddenly preferred going to bed earlier. Why I volunteered for extra shifts. Why my stomach twisted every time I walked into a room and found them laughing. My intuition screamed, but I silenced it with logic, with trust, with hope. After all, he held me every night. He kissed my forehead. He told me he loved me. And I loved him back with all the corners of my soul, even the ones darkened by doubt. That's the most insidious part of betrayal. It hides inside love like a poison you can't taste until it's too late. Looking back now, the signs weren't whispers. They were sirens. I just didn't want to hear them. Because love, real or imagined, has a way of making you blind in all the places you most need to see. And when you build your life around someone, you stop asking if the foundation is cracking. You just keep decorating the walls, hoping the collapse never comes. But it always does. Started with a message. Not a love letter. Not a confession. Just a notification. A flicker on his phone screen when he left it face up for once. Thank you for last night. I needed that. No name. No context. Just enough to make the room tilt slightly under my feet. I didn't confront him. Not right away. Instead, I stared at the message until it faded like it was never there. I told myself it could have been anyone. Friend, coworker, maybe even a client. My husband was warm. He hugged people, checked in, gave space to the broken. That was part of who he was. But something shifted in me that day. The air felt thicker. I started watching him more carefully, like I was living with a man-shaped puzzle and all the pieces suddenly felt wrong. His habits started changing. He got protective of his phone. Always in his pocket, always face down. He worked late, took calls in the car, smiled less, touched me less. And Elisa, she became quieter when I entered the room. Her eyes started avoiding mine. Her laughter, once effortless and bright, became more measured, more rehearsed. I caught them in the kitchen one evening, standing too close. She was barefoot, in leggings and one of my old sweatshirts. He handed her a glass of wine. Their fingers brushed. She flinched. He didn't. They didn't see me. I stepped back into the hallway before they did. I pressed my back against the wall and listened to the sound of two people pretending they weren't on fire. I didn't say anything. Again. Instead, I started second-guessing myself. Was I overreacting? Was I jealous? Insecure? Possessive? He'd never given me a reason not to trust him before. Not once in all our years. And Elisa, she owed me everything. I helped rebuild her life from ashes. If she crossed this line, if he did, well, they wouldn't. But the whispers grew louder. He changed his passwords. Started going to the gym without telling me. I found a receipt from a hotel. A single night, one room in the city. He said it was a mistake. Said it was for a work trip. Said he forgot to mention it. His lies weren't loud. They were subtle, soft-spoken, almost elegant, but lies nonetheless. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the slow erosion of my sanity. I stopped sleeping. I kept checking his phone when he wasn't looking. I caught myself memorizing his schedule like a detective. I'd look at Elisa across the dinner table and wonder if she could feel my heartbreak bleeding through my smile. I tried to trap them once. Left work early, came home unannounced. The house was empty. Elisa was at the library. He was in a meeting. Their stories matched. Oh well. And still I said nothing. Because confronting it would mean confirming it. And confirmation meant everything I built. The love, the years, the home, would turn to dust. I clung to the version of reality where this was all in my head. I wore denial like armor, until it became a coffin. But the truth doesn't stay buried. Rises, claws, it demands to be seen. And when it finally burst through, like a storm ripping through a sealed window, it did not come quietly. It came with lipstick on a shirt I never bought. It came with a hotel key tucked into his wallet. It came with the sound of Elisa crying in the guest room when she thought I was asleep. And I realized, I wasn't crazy. I was right. I wish I could say I walked away the moment I knew. I didn't. Begged instead. Begged him to talk to me. To deny it more convincingly. To lie better. To make me feel crazy again because crazy felt safer than broken. He cried the night I confronted him, or pretended to, said he was confused, that it didn't mean anything, that he didn't know how it happened. All the greatest hits of the guilty. He pulled me into his arms like he was the one who needed comfort, and I let him. I stood there, shaking in the chest of the man who shattered me as he whispered, "I love you." I never stopped. That night, I held on to him like someone drowning clings to a life vest, even when it's filled with holes. And Elisa, she disappeared for 2 days. Her things were gone when I checked the guest room. No note, no goodbye, just emptiness. I told myself, it's over. She's gone. He chose me. For a moment I almost believed it. We went through the motions of mending. Therapy sessions that felt like court trials. Dinners cooked in silence. Forced smiles during family video calls. Every night I tried to be enough. Prettier, softer, more available. I wore lipstick I hated. I stopped volunteering. I made space where I used to have dreams. I made myself smaller so he could fit back into the hollow space he left behind. He'd hold me sometimes and say, "Let's start fresh." And I'd nod, like forgiveness was a faucet I could turn on just because he asked. But the images never stopped. Her skin against his. Their laughter behind my back. The betrayal bleeding into our mattress. I couldn't unsee it. And it kept happening, in ways I couldn't prove. Slips of the tongue. Missed calls. Whispered names in sleep. Nights he'd work late, and return smelling like hotel shampoo. One day I found a message in my inbox. From Elisa. Just a single line. "I'm sorry. I never meant to fall for him." And that was it. Not, "I'm sorry for hurting you." Not, "I regret it." Just, "I never meant to." As if that made it better. As if intentions could erase the weight of destruction. That night, I sat on the bathroom floor, the tiles cold against my spine, and whispered to myself the question I had been avoiding for months. Why am I trying to save someone who keeps drowning me? I realized then that I was clinging to a ghost. The man I married was gone, and the one who remained was not someone who would fight for me. He wanted comfort, not redemption. He wanted me as a mirror, not a partner. And I was so exhausted. So tired of pretending that we weren't living in ruins. But it still took one last blow. The final crack in the foundation. A charge on our credit card. A weekend getaway. 2 tickets. 1 hotel room. Not to a place I'd ever been invited. But to the city Elisa moved to after she left. That was my breaking point. Not the betrayal itself, but the realization that I had become the only one still pretending this was a marriage. I stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Ill, hollow-eyed, bent into a shape she was never meant to hold. I wiped my face. I straightened my spine. And I made the call. Not to him. To a lawyer. The day I told him it was over, the sky was too blue. You'd expect thunder. Vain. Some kind of divine acknowledgement of the storm about to erupt inside our home. But no. Just sunlight. Mocking. Unbothered. I waited for him in the living room. Same place we used to cuddle under throw blankets. binge watch crime shows, drink too much wine. Now, I sat there in silence, a manila envelope on the coffee table between us like a loaded weapon. He walked in, briefcase in one hand, takeout in the other. Business as usual. "Hey babe," he said, kicking his shoes off like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't seen the receipts. Like I hadn't opened the email Elisa sent the night before. "He's been here again. He tells me he's leaving soon. I told him not to. I don't want him anymore. Please just leave him. He's not who you think he is. Too little. Too late." When he saw the envelope, he stopped mid-step. "What's that?" I didn't answer right away. Understood. My voice came out steady, but only because I had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in my mind. In the shower, in traffic, in dreams where I woke up screaming. "It's over," I said. "I spoke to a lawyer. These are the papers." He blinked once, as if he didn't understand the language. As if I was speaking a foreign tongue, one he'd never expect from his quiet, loyal, soft wife. "Wait, you're serious?" He nodded. He laughed, a short, stunned sound. "You're leaving me. Over her." And there it was, the fire, the mask slipping. "No," I said. "I'm leaving you because you left me a long time ago. You just never had the guts to walk out. So I'm doing it for you." He stepped closer. Anger flickered in his eyes. "You're throwing away everything we built." "We didn't build anything," I said. "I built it. You just moved in and set it on fire." He sat down, head in his hands. The silence was sharp. I waited for rage, for guilt trips, for begging. What I got was worse. Deflation. Like he had never really loved me at all. Only the idea of me. The stability I brought. Comfort. The mirror that made him feel good about himself. He didn't chase me. He didn't fight. He didn't even deny it. He just said, "I didn't think you'd actually leave." That sentence broke something in me more than all the lies. Because it meant he knew what he was doing all along, and just assumed I'd stay. I took the keys off my ring, placed them on the table beside the envelope, and walked out. My legs shook all the way to the car. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't stay. I parked at a gas station 2 miles away and sobbed for 20 minutes until I could breathe again. Not for him. Not even for us. For the version of me that believed love meant enduring. That staying was noble. That sacrificing yourself was proof of devotion. She died in that house. And I didn't go back to save her. I left her there, along with the ashes of a life built on lies. Healing didn't come in some grand moment of triumph. Came in fragments, like glass slowly swept from a broken floor. The first night alone in my new apartment, I slept on a mattress on the ground. The walls were bare. The air was cold. The silence was overwhelming. Not the silence of tension like it had been with him, but something deeper. Grief, faith, freedom. Felt like all three at once. Kept waiting to collapse, to regret, to miss him. I didn't. I missed who I thought he was. I missed who I was when I believed I was loved. But him. The real him. The man who watched me unravel and said nothing. Well, I started therapy. Not the fix the marriage kind, but the kind that made me sit in uncomfortable truths. That forced me to ask why I gave so much of myself to someone who gave me so little. My therapist asked me once, "What do you want now, just for you?" And I couldn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because no one had ever asked me before. I started small. I cooked meals only I liked. I painted my nails black, even though he once told me it made me look too intense. I stopped straightening my hair. I let it curl, wild and defiant. I cried in the shower when memories hit me like punches. I wrote letters I never sent. To him, to her, to the version of me that thought saving people was the same as being loved. I reconnected with the shelter. Not right away. I needed space from that part of my story. But eventually I found my way back. Not to fix anyone, but because I needed healing too. I met women who told their truths with trembling voices and eyes full of rage. And for the first time, I didn't just sympathize. I understood. I wasn't just someone who'd been betrayed. I was someone who survived it. One evening, after months of no contact, Elisa showed up. The shelter. She looked different, thinner, hollowed out. She didn't say much, only that she was sorry, that he had moved on already, that she was trying to pick up pieces too. And for a moment, felt nothing. No hate, no desire for revenge, just exhaustion. I looked at her. This woman I once brought into my home, this woman who helped burn it down, and I realized I didn't want to carry her with me anymore. I hope you find peace, I told her. And I meant it. Forgiveness didn't come with fireworks. Came like a quiet exhale. For her, for him, for myself. Now I go for walks alone and smile at strangers. Bought a bike. I filled my apartment with plants I'm learning how to keep alive. Like me, they're still figuring it out. There are days I still ache. Triggers. A scent that feels too familiar. But they pass now. The clouds. And sometimes in the mirror I catch a glimpse of someone I recognize. Someone strong. Someone whole. Someone I lost a long time ago. Me. I no longer need someone to choose me. 'Cause I choose myself. Every single day. People ask me now, are you over it? I never know how to answer. Because healing isn't linear. It's not some final destination with a ribbon and applause. It's a quiet, ongoing decision. To live without bitterness. To wake up even when the mornings still ache sometimes. To trust again, even when the trust was shattered by the very hands that swore to protect you. I think the hardest part of betrayal isn't the heartbreak. It's the shame. The way you question every choice, every word, every kindness. Was I too naive? Did I see it coming and look away? Was I not enough? But here's what I've learned. Being betrayed says nothing about your worth. It says everything about the person who couldn't see it. I loved deeply, gave freely, and believed in people. That is not weakness. That is courage. I used to think love was sacrifice. That to be worthy, I had to give and give until there was nothing left of me. But now I know. Real love doesn't ask you to disappear. It doesn't demand your silence. It doesn't punish your light. And maybe the most radical thing I ever did was stop chasing closure from the people who broke me, and build it with my own hands instead. I don't need his apology anymore. I don't need her remorse. I needed me. The woman who rose from the rubble, ash in her lungs, fire still in her heart. I look at that past version of myself, the one who stood in that doorway and saw everything she feared become real, and I want to hold her. I want to tell her, you are not broken. You were betrayed, but you are not broken. There is still love in your future. Not just romantic love, but the kind that comes from within. The kind that whispers, you are whole. You are worthy. You are home. And now, I ask you, whoever is listening, maybe crying, maybe remembering your own heartbreak. Have you ever given everything to someone who gave you nothing in return? Have you stayed quiet, loyal, forgiving, even when your soul was screaming? And if so, I want you to ask yourself, what would happen if you chose you instead? Really chose yourself? Would it hurt? Would it be lonely sometimes? Absolutely. But would it be worth it? Without a doubt. I am living proof. So now I leave you with this. Would you forgive someone who broke your heart while looking you in the eye and calling it love? Think about it. And if this story touched something in you, if it felt like your story too, share it. Come in. Let your voice echo in a world that so often silences the ones who suffer in secret. 'Cause your story matters. And you. You're not alone anymore.